Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and tonight I'm going to be testing out a new type of discussion analysis type articles with these meta snapshots I want to do. So the main purpose of these is basically to discuss current meta trends in Puzzle and Dragons and then just give my spin and take on it along with where I think it is heading and how it's basically affecting our gameplay. So just let me know if you enjoy these type of videos as well as articles, and I will probably keep doing them in the future. So the first one I want to do is discuss monster point cards and where they are currently, where they're going to be, and how they're impacting your game right now. So Gung-Ho basically introduced this monster point system as a means to help alleviate the sadness that comes with rolling numerous duplicate cards. Now, when you sell these monsters, you actually are able to gain a type of currency, and this currency can be redeemed for various rewards. Most notably, you can redeem them for 300,000 monster point cards, either the Monster Point Dragons or the Four Gentlemen series. And at the time of the Dragons release, they were relatively the strongest leaders in the game. They were a significant step up in terms of power creep, and they basically just outclassed every other leader at that point. And that made life a little difficult because players who did not have these monster point cards started falling further and further behind. Thankfully, monster point cards, either dragons or four gentlemen, are no longer the top leaders in the game, mainly because of the heart cross meta. And in addition, Gung-Ho also released Miru, who is a farmable monster. So I just wanted to discuss how monster point cards are affecting us currently and where we go from there. So the good, the bad, and the dragons, because this is puzzle and waifus after all. So what works currently with the monster point system? So what works is that when you roll a duplicate card, you can sell it and you gain this currency that you can redeem. Now, there is skill inheritance, so the value of dupes has increased, but that doesn't necessarily stop people from rolling numerous of the same card over and over again. So this is at least another way to gain a collateral benefit, and it gives us more incentive to roll in Godfest, because on average you'll probably get about 1,000 monster points per stone spent. Of course, when you roll, you have the chance of actually gaining something valuable, so that is important. But at least when you don't get something valuable, you have this collateral benefit. Now, you can also farm monster points via playing co-op, pre-draw infestation, or Mythic plus Rogue Descends, which drop the 500 monster point pre-draws. So we have options, and a lot of players, including myself, have been able to farm up cards without even pulling the rare machine. It just takes time, because you do gain 480 stamina every day. So in theory, you can do 19 runs of Mythic plus Rogue Descends. You'll probably rank up as well. You have to be very motivated, of course, but that will yield let's say about 10,000 a day. That's pretty reasonable. So in a month of nonstop playing, you get a 300,000 card. Again, that's interesting, so something to consider. Now, what needs improvement? So, like I mentioned before, the Monster Point Dragons, when they were first released, I'm talking about Raw Dragon, Yomi Dragon, they were just too strong. They pretty much obliterated all the content that was available, and this was terrible because it made players who did not own these cards be stuck in a significant disadvantage, because dungeons started being released that were built around Raw's 144 times multiplier when you had Rainbow leaders doing 25 or 36 times. Like, there's no comparison. Like, it's just unfair. And to top it off, Raw Dragon had recovery on top as well. So nothing could compete, and they had to release content that was so much harder than what the average player could beat. Thankfully, his hype and power have kind of died down, mostly because of heart crosses and how they work. And even with Xiang Mei being released, she is very powerful, was great in her initial release, but she has been kind of pushed down a little bit just because, again, heart crosses are so powerful because they combine with damage and durability. And it's the durability component that we need the most. Because of skill inheritance, you're actually able to add enough damage enhance to kill floors. So even if you have like a lower multiplier, you still can burst for very high damage. And outside of basically Ragnarok Dragon and Yomi Dragon, there's no good sub value, so these monster point cards are kind of in a little bit of a bad spot because they are good leaders, but they're not necessarily the best leaders anymore, which is good in a way, but they need to have more value in my opinion, mostly like sub roles. Like Ragnarok Dragon is in a very good place because he can fit on numerous top tier teams as a very good sub, such as Ronove. And that is very helpful because a sub is useful to have and has more flexibility in my opinion. So, to spend or not to spend? And this is a relatively common question. However, before I go into should I purchase a Monster Point Dragon or not, I want to strongly emphasize that you should never purchase anything other than the Monster Point cards with your Monster Points. Those include Tamadras and evolution materials. The only exception I would ever make to this rule is if you were to purchase some evolution material which would complete your first awoken evolution for a leader that will propel your game forward. And for instance, let's say you have a Shiva and you were able to make awoken Shiva because you just managed to get enough jewels or whatever it may be. This would be a justifiable purchase because awoken Shiva is a significantly stronger leader than probably any other card you may have at this point. So if that's the case and you're able to start clearing more and more content, you can start cashing in on these various rewards through all the dungeon challenges or descend challenges Gung-Ho releases. If you're able to start farming those extra jewels even, or shine peas, or monster points, whatever it may be, this is beneficial and it could advance your game much quicker and you'll have more rewards because if you make this evolution and you actually start clearing, say, 1 or 2 levels higher than you normally could, that's 1 or 2 more rewards that you never would have had, or possibly never had the chance to have access to, such as pies, like the guaranteed skill-up monsters, because lower level accounts can't farm those as readily. So this might be a huge benefit to yourself. So that's the only exception I would ever make. However, I want to stick to the main question of what monster point card should I purchase? So the relatively simple answers are you either purchase something that is synergistic with your team right now, you're not missing any pieces to it, or you just simply wait till the next wave of cards is released. So, due to the foreshadowing of Gung-Ho releasing a 500,000 monster point card in Beach Miru, it may be an indication that they might be releasing cards of that price tag or of that power level, because Beach Miru is very powerful. Like, it's almost on par with Light Miru, but she's comes ready to use, and I wrote a good article about her, when you should purchase her, so on and so forth. However, the fact that she comes ready to use and can propel most boxes significantly to endgame content right away is a huge value, and that could be potentially what happens. They might start releasing these 500,000 point monster cards in the future that are very competitive endgame leaders, and if they're quote-unquote relatively ready to use like Beach Miru, it's a huge advantage to newer players. Yes, it might feel like a bit of pay to win, but as long as it's not so blisteringly far ahead of what is currently available, I think it's healthy for the game because it gives some of a catch-up mechanism, makes people happy, and whatnot. So the scenario where you're thinking of buying a monster point card, you should only do so if you have that team ready to go. I'll use Xiang Mei as an example because she's still relevant and powerful. You should only buy her if you have numerous Uriels and a Gadius, because you don't want to have holes in your team, because what if the next wave is so much stronger and you just feel like you wasted it? You want to take advantage of it now, because being able to take advantage of a card now, clearing content presently, will propel your game forward. You might start being able to clear, say, Mythic Plus descends, which you couldn't before. That way you'll farm monster points back. Or you start clearing challenge 9s instead of 7, like you clear 8 and 9, so you're getting 2 more pies all the time. This can be a great benefit, and because of the delay between North America and Japan, we have, like, say, a 2-month window, so you can gain benefit now, because nothing has been announced, let alone released, so you probably have several months before the next wave comes. And if you're able to purchase something now and clear content right away, it might be justifiable, provided you have the team ready. You don't want to purchase something and hope you get it in the future. Like, a half lackluster team may not be sufficient to clear more content than you already have. And as I mentioned, Puzzle & Dragons is a progression-based game, so you only should purchase a monster point card if it will significantly improve your progress. Now, by progress, I mean such as clearing, say, challenge 10s when you only could do, say, 7 8s. If you can start clearing those, you open up doors and dungeons that you never could beforehand. And I'll use myself as an example. So if I have over 500,000 monster points and I can basically clear any dungeon in the game, I can clear Arena 3 with reasonably good consistency, and I did this with my mirror team. So even if I had a good team of another monster point card, I would not necessarily buy it because it's not going to allow me to clear more content than I could currently. So it's not worth the investment unless I want a fun aspect, change it up, that's the idea. So unless it's advancing your progress, I would hold off on purchasing right now just because you don't know what's coming around the corner. And unless you have lots of monster points lying around or access to numerous magic stones, it may be wise to rethink a purchase if it's not going to improve your gameplay right now. However, like being said, newer players or those who are still progressing quite extensively throughout the game, these might be worthwhile to purchase because they'll help you right now and help you catch up in terms of content that's being released right now. So looking forward, Gung Ho is basically very mysterious. They don't like to give teasers or spoilers of what they're going to release next, and instead they make the announcement and the official release shortly after. So we don't know what's going to come. We don't know what the next meta is going to be. They tried jammers, that kind of flopped, and now they have heart crosses, and those are very powerful right now, and I don't know what they're going to do that could improve upon it because they've released cards of crazy high damage, but crazy high damage means nothing if you can't survive mechanics. So something new will come out in the future, and it may be beneficial to be prepared to purchase it and get on that hype train right away. So, in conclusion, Monster Points and Monster Point cards is another wonderful way to help ease the pain of rolling duplicate cards, because I know the feeling. I've rolled 4 Salamadic, I don't know, that's some blue Cyber Dragon. I rolled 4 in one Godfest, I got sad. At least there were 5,000 monster points, or I can make a system out of it. I don't know what I'm going to do if it's still. Regardless, the point being is that it gives at least another incentive to roll and some collateral benefit. Now, if you are able to acquire 300,000 monster points this time, like I said, you should only purchase if it does advance you further in the game. Otherwise, I would just wait and see what is released. Unless it's going to help you out right now, it's not worth the purchase. You're better off waiting. Maybe these cards will get buffed in the future, and you may regret buying one when some other one was more powerful. We don't know, and being patient is what is part of playing Puzzle & Dragons, because I played for over 1,000 days on both accounts, and I'm relatively patient. So let me know what you think of this video series. Like, do you like these type of meta snapshots? Obviously the topic will be different every time, but let me know what you think about these in the comments below. So, thank you very much for watching, have a fantastic evening, and happy puzzling!